How's it going, everybody? My name is Warner Fields from Fields of Profit, and today I'm joined by Miles. Sure, a lot of you guys are well familiar with Miles. We're actually in Orlando right now, meeting up with the SellerAmp team, planning the future, figuring out what kind of tools and stuff we want to implement, help you guys out with your business. It's been great to connect. We're gonna have a conversation about how Miles is able to sell his inventory incredibly fast. But for the people who maybe they're brand new to the channel, they don't know who you are, if you want to quickly introduce yourself, we can jump into it.
Yeah, so my name's Miles. I'm a 23-year-old full-time online arbitrage seller. I've done about 2.1 million in sales the last 12 months. And similar to Warner, we both are involved with SellerAmp as well. We do a lot of reverse sourcing and just online arbitrage, make a bunch of content about it, and basically try to sell as much stuff as possible, just like you guys watching this.
Awesome, yeah. And we're gonna jump into the meat of how he's able to sell his inventory 2 times, 3 times faster than the average Amazon seller. But before you do that, we have a link directly below you for our free Discord community. We started right around a year ago now, about 30,000 people in there, a ton of free information. Let's go ahead and jump into the video. Yeah, so like we were talking about, we were kind of saying you're able to sell your inventory way fast. Where are we kind of drawing those metrics? Like, what are we looking at when we're deciding that?
Yeah, so if you're watching this and you're already selling stuff, you want to go to inventory and then inventory planning on Seller Central. It's in the top left. And then on the right side of the screen, you'll be able to see your days in inventory numbers and your turns, which is a measure of how quickly your FBA inventory is moving, to my knowledge. On that, you'll be able to see basically the health of your capital, as well as the days in inventory and average product costs, which I don't think is super important, but the turns part is important because the turns part gives you an indication of how quick your inventory is moving on an annual, or your money's moving on an annual time frame, basically. So if it's below like 10, there's a good chance you either have some really stale inventory, or just in general, you're buying stuff that sells pretty slow. And everything we can talk about, sales rate criteria, percentage criteria, and everything like that. But the big part is if it's over 10, you're doing a good job from a repricing perspective, most likely, and just the buying criteria of what you're buying is good. It's clearly selling. But that combined with, this doesn't necessarily affect the turns numbers, but your merchant fulfill, if you're doing any merchant fulfill, which we do on a lot of seasonal opportunities, right? Last December.
We're coming up on back to school.
Similar stuff. That's a good opportunity as well. And a lot of people sleep on that. So I think, like, if you're not using a repricer, you probably should be, just in terms of making more money, definitely. As well as if you're not merchant fulfilling, you should as well. How do we know if a product is good to be merchant fulfilled?
You look at the buy box rotation.
Yeah, so
this is kind of more advanced. So when you're looking at potential opportunities to merchant fulfill, which is where we're shipping directly from us to the customer, different from FBA where Amazon's doing most of the work, sometimes it can be really lucrative, especially like back to school, like Christmas and that kind of stuff. I know, especially I went kind of crazy on it during Q4 because we were buying shoes and Lego sets and stuff like that that's moving super fast during Christmas time, capturing those buy box on the FBM. The way you can do that if you're a little bit more advanced seller, if you mouse over the pink line when you're on the Keepa chart, it'll tell you if FBA sellers are getting the buy box or if FBM sellers are getting the buy box. So if you see FBM sellers on there, it's a great opportunity. It means you can get plenty of sales as an FBM seller. Typically it doesn't work that way, but on high volume stuff, it really does work that way. And I feel like that's another reason why you're able to turn your inventory over so fast. I know I go as low as like 30 sales per month on an item if it's like decent ROI. Like I tend to go fairly wide, have a lot of different products. Are you kind of just going really deep on stuff, selling super fast?
Yeah, typically, and obviously there's benefits to both of that stuff, but I mainly go for just trying to buy a lot of the same stuff because and you're same thing, we collaborate on a lot of stuff. We're very good at finding coupon opportunities, and because we're buying stuff with coupons, there's a natural barrier to entry to that other sellers aren't going to find. When something that is on Walmart for 15, it's selling for 40, it's incredibly easy to find and understand the profitability of that item, and therefore a lot of people are going to find it and might show up on some different automation tools, when what we're using is SellerAmp, reverse sourcing, we're grinding in Google Shopping, working a lot harder to find an initial item, but we're then rewarded in the longevity of that item over time, and that less people are going to find it, therefore we can buy more and sell more theoretically over a long period of time, a blanket statement across the catalog of items.
Yeah, and I know, you're talking about sourcing tons of items. Like I know a lot of sellers, their biggest question is like, how long is it going to take me to find items? Do you remember like how long it used to take you to find those high volume great listings compared to about how long it takes you now?
Well, the nice thing is there's such a compounding effect too, because there's still stuff I'm selling that I started selling over a year ago. Like ASINs that like I've been on over a year. And everything, obviously there's new stuff, but you get so much better the more you do it. Like we've all done it an exhausting amount. That's why it's easy now, or that's why it's more effective now. But you're pretty underpaid when you start just because you don't know how to do any, like there's no real formal education. It's just us talking on YouTube basically about how to do it. But you get better over time. What we've also been able to do is we know a lot of other sellers, so opportunities come to us, and because we've been in the game so long, we see opportunities other people won't. Like UPC, ASINs that don't match the UPC.
That's a big one. That's a big one.
Multiple
If you guys are picking that up at home, someone's about to make a lot of money off that too.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Like that stuff you only find if you're doing stuff manually. It's not going to show up in any automation searches or anything like that, and it just confuses a lot of people. Also, stuff with variation, shoes, clothing, apparel, electronics that are higher ASP. Because there's variation, that draws away newer sellers, and that's a little bit more confusing. You got to go in the variations, you got to filter the ratings. There's other videos talking about that stuff, but that all combines, right? It makes it a lot more complex. But once you do it for a while, it's not actually complex to you, but it's complex to your competition. Hence why there's lower competition on stuff and more money do you make.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I get a ton of DMs, I get a ton of comments like, I spent 3 hours sourcing today, I spent 4 hours sourcing today, I found nothing. It's your first day, it's your second day ever. Of course you didn't go out and make $1 million today, right? It's gonna take time, like he's talking about. Over time, you're gonna develop the knowledge of, all right, here's when I can stack this coupon with this cash back. It makes it profitable. Other people aren't gonna know how to do that. There's just a lot that goes into it, like going through SellerAmp reverse sourcing. When you're looking through those lists, both of us have been in the game long enough that we can pretty much just scroll through those lists pretty quickly, which might be very different. If you're a new seller, you might have to click through to a bunch of different things, but that's okay. You're gonna be learning what's good, what's worth investigating, what's not worth investigating, because over time, that scale is what's gonna make your sourcing much faster. And there was something you kind of touched on earlier, and then we can kind of wrap up. You mentioned your repricing strategy is a big factor in helping you sell stuff faster. Do you want to go into a little more detail on that?
Yeah, the one thing is that I check it a lot. Like I'm checking stuff, I'm waiting, this is a pro tip as well, waiting till something's available at FBA to turn the repricer on, but then also just optimizing listings all the time. There's stuff where like, say I have like 500 in stock or something, and I can see if it's trending up to like selling for 45 when normally it's at 44, I'll bump the minimum up, or vice versa. There's different ebbs and flows with stuff. But a big underrated sourcing metric is ease of purchase, and there's lots of stuff that's really easy to buy a lot if you can get around order cancels and everything. And then it's fine to take a lower ROI on that because you might be able to sell a lot more over time and come back to it in the future, even if you sacrifice a little bit of profit. But the goal with any business is to make the max amount of money in the least amount of time. And as you scale, your capital grows, your network grows, more opportunities come to you. And sure, there's more low-hanging fruit available, so who cares if it's at a slightly lower ROI than you want when you're going to be making much more over time. Return of capital over return on capital.
Exactly. And to kind of add a caveat to that, if you're sitting at home, you've got $1,000 or $2,000, you've got the time to go in and chase those high ROIs, worry about order cancels, all that kind of stuff. But once you really start scaling, like ease of purchase is maybe like the most important thing to look at.
That's a good tweet.
Yeah, that is when you're really trying to scale. So even if you do have to sacrifice a couple percentage points on your ROI, if it saves you hours in your sourcing and headaches of order cancellations and all that kind of stuff, like it's just 1,000 times worth it. And then one other thing you mentioned, you said you're checking your repricing pretty often. This is something I'm curious about myself. I check my repricing maybe once a week, every other week. Like how often are you checking?
Dude, with how quick you're listing new ASINs, you gotta be checking it more often.
Yeah. Well, I'll like go in and reprice all my new listings. But I'm not going back in and editing the prices super often.
Yeah, that could be a quantity thing, but it's, I don't know, I'm just very cognizant, and I don't know, maybe that's an obsessive thing, but it served me well and stuff. Yeah, checking a few times. You gotta buy, but when you're seeing your seller app, not seller amp, you see what stuff's moving and how often. If there's irregularities or stuff that's moving quicker than you thought, it's a good sign. Maybe you're repricing right, the competition's low. I should go check that and maybe buy more. But being like, it never hurts to be more on that. You can get a VA to do that definitely in terms of like, making it a formula or something like that. But yeah, it's pretty often in terms of making sure I'm dialed in on repricing, because across hundreds of units is the same ASIN and at low sales range. That's the big thing. It's the sales range, right? It's because we coupon stuff, therefore so much is profitable to us that isn't to other people. You can buy more of stuff that sells quicker and sell more of it over time. And that's why we're rewarded in more profit, and you need to be more dialed in on specific repricing. So like if you're selling books and you got 1,000 different books, like repricing doesn't really matter. You can just rule based, but I'm dialed in min-max on every listing, no rules.
Yeah, especially when you've got tons of inventory on those ASINs. I really like that. Yeah, so where can the people who don't already know you, where can they check you out? Yeah,
so it's Flips, the number 4 miles. All my stuff's going to be in the link in the description.
It'll be down there.
So on all platforms as well as Warner and I are both a part of SellerAmp, so make sure you get a free trial. That's the tool we mainly use to source all that and everything. Thanks for having me on, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for watching, everybody. If you did enjoy, get some value, hit the like button, subscribe, all that kind of stuff helps me out. And once again, if you haven't taken advantage of the free Discord we made, go ahead and check that out. But I really appreciate you guys watching. I will see you next time.